Right? Go ahead.
Because you're not a father.
And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all
That
the
no
day
longer
long.
applies.
Even our ancestors, during the time that they was in captivity,
They're all
their
dead.
eyes looking long, and they were in suffering because it says what?
I got
And there shall be no might in thine
There's
hand.
no might in your hand. We go to the court offices today, and you deal with child of, you know. If I may ask, watch yourself.
I'm mixed. I'm black and white.
You black and white? Who's black, who white?
Pops is black.
Your pops is a so-called Negro?
Yeah.
You ever heard of the Hebrew Israelites? No? You read the Bible? You're a God-fearing man? And you believe in the Bible? Have you ever read the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter? You've never read that. So question, right? Because we always like to ask a so-called Negro man, right, being either African-American, West Indian, or Haitian, how did we get over here to the Western Hemisphere? How did we get over here? By what mechanism of transportation? What transportation brought us over here, our ancestors? We was forced and put on what? We was put on boats.
That's right.
Did you know that that was prophesied in the Bible, that that was going to happen to our ancestors if we didn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments? Have you ever read that? Get Deuteronomy 28, start at 1, we're going to get 15, and then we're going to get the point in verse 68. That's your wife? That's your girlfriend? Listen, man, also according to the scriptures, brother, so you take diligent inquisition into taking care of your girlfriend. According to the Bible and the word of God, sex is marriage. So if you lay down with your girlfriend, that is your wife, thus saith the Lord. Right? That is an everlasting thing, right? And your wife is so-called Hispanic? Mexicana? So your wife will come from the tribe of Issachar. You would come from the tribe of Judah, right? Give me Songs of Solomon. Because Solomon was a king from the tribe of Judah. He had a wife that was from the tribe of Issachar. I recommend both of you guys, right, read the book of Songs of Solomon. Because in the Song of Solomon, Solomon and his wife is talking to each other on how much they love each other, man. And it can bring peace to your household, right? No more fights, no more arguments. Of course, you guys are going to butt heads. But anytime you read that book, it's going to spark that fire back, right? When y'all both, you know, that first time you laid eyes on each other, right? But get that 28 verse 1. Go ahead.
This book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Right, so what we out here to do is tell the so-called Negro, Hispanic, Native Indian that they have to keep God's laws, statutes, and commandments. We're not out here to teaching Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, Kemet, none of that. We're out here to teach our people the laws, statutes, and commandments. And God told Moses to tell the Israelites, if you hearken diligently, do and observe these laws, statutes, and commandments, that will put you above all nations that are upon the face of the earth. Now, would you say the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Indians are above all nations of the earth? Do we rule the earth? We don't have our own. We don't have the dollar bills we got. Our faces are not on it, right? We own no land. We might own businesses, right? But we got to pay what? We got to pay property tax on the businesses. We have to give people money to contain and keep possession of our businesses, right? Now give verse 15. I'm going to show you why we have to do such things as that. I'm going to show you why we're at the bottom. I'm going to show you why the system is against us, right? And I'm going to show you why we was brought on slave ships, forced, right, on cargo ships, and brought over here to the west, or to the Western Hemisphere. Give verse 15. This is the why. Go ahead.
Deuteronomy 28 and 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses,
All these what?
all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Now, there was curses that came upon the so-called Negro, Hispanic, Native Indian and overtaken us.
care
It's a laundry list.
There you go.
Starting at verse 16 all the way to 68,
Ask why.
that's the laundry list of curses.
There you
I'm
go.
going to bring out
You
about
forgot
3.
to ask why.
And you tell me if this
Start
happened to the
asking
so-called
why.
Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Indians. Give verse 32.
My granddaughter watches
Verse
one show.
32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
Are our sons and daughters given into another people? Yes, right? During the time of what we call chattel slavery, and still now to this day. What is the modern way that our children are being taken from us? Police brutality.
What did he
CPS,
say?
Child Protective Services.
You should ask why.
They come and take our children,
Why?
right? Go ahead.
Because you're not a father.
And thine eyes shall
See
look
how that works?
and fail with longing for them all
That
the
no
day
longer
long.
applies.
Even our ancestors, during the time that they was in captivity,
They're all
their
dead.
eyes looked and longed, and they were in
Am I
suffering
done?
because it says what?
I got more.
And there shall be
Okay.
no might
See ya.
in thine hand.
There's no might in your hand. We go to the court offices today, and you deal with child, what do they say? Having possession of your child, you have, an art against your woman. The court system is always against the man. It's to get the man out of the house, right? This deals with Jim Crow, them Jim Crow laws, right? Dealing with the 1950s and the 1960s. Before then, the household was centered and ran by the men. But once you get to the 50s and 60s, this is where the men is starting to get pushed out, right? So where now they're starting to teach our women that you don't need a man. You got WIC, you got Section 8, you got, what else do they have? You got welfare, right? You said what? Hey, like the brother said, just the entire government system on how it's been laid out to get that man and that structure and that order out of the house. So this is one of the curses that happened to us, right? That happened to our people. Give verse 68. Right? Let's just get to the point, right? Because I'm going to show the brother the prophecy. This was written 3,000 years ago, right? By Moses' scribe. And like you said, like me and you both agree on, he was taking on cargo ships from West Africa and brought over here to the Western Hemisphere, North, Central, South America, and the West Indian Islands, right? Give verse 68. Go ahead.
Verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
What happened to the Israelites in Egypt? What were they doing in Egypt? Do you remember? When Moses let my people go? Does it ring a bell? Captivity, right? We built up their treasure cities, as Exodus 1 says. So when you deal with this word Egypt, it means between a rock and a hard place. Get Exodus 20 and 1. You got it? Exodus 21? Bring it out.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 1. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Right? So Egypt is synonymous with bondage. So when we read verse 60 in Deuteronomy 28, it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt, meaning bondage. It says again, but how?
With ships.
With what?
With ships.
With ships, right? This was prophesied. This is how we connect ourselves, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Indians, to the people of this book, the Hebrew Israelites, the 12 sons of Jacob, right? So it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again, into bondage again, with ships. Go ahead.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
Right, and when you go into the book of Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter, God told us that we wasn't going to see that old Egypt again, that place that we built up, right? Go ahead.
And there,
It says, and there, this place that you was going to be taken to in ships, there, that place, go ahead.
ye shall be sold.
We're going to be what?
Ye shall be sold.
When our ancestors sold, our forefathers were sold. Our foremothers were sold, right? The Negroes, the Hispanics, so-called Hispanics, and the so-called Native Indians. We were all sold. We all possess a slave master's last name. My last name is Carter. It's a French name. It goes back to the French name, Cartier. I'm pretty sure you possess a last name that goes back to some Englishman. And same thing with this sister. Her last name goes back to some Spanish man, right? That's not our actual names. That's not our actual root, our heritage, our culture, and people that we come from, that we came out of the stock from. They made us their possession by stamping their name on us, right? Go ahead.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies.
Right? We were sold unto our enemies because our friends not gonna take us, put us on cargo ships, put us in chattel slavery, feed us to alligators, skin us, whip us, rip us apart with horses, lynch us, right? Cut our leg off if we run, cut our hand off if we steal, right? Go ahead.
For bondmen,
For what?
for bondmen,
Right, and also your enemy, because I have this book called The Black Jacobins. Your enemy wouldn't take your wife, or your grandfather, or your grandmother, or your brother, or your sister. Cut them open, take their organs, and force feed them to you. And then if you don't eat it, same things happen to you. Your friend, your brother will not do that to you. Only your enemy will do that to you. Right? Go ahead.
for bondmen and bondwomen,
Right.
and no man shall buy you.
And one thing that we got to understand is that when we read our history book, is that it was written in the actual original language, which is Hebrew, right? The word Hebrew in the Hebrew is Ibar. The Lashawan Kodash, the tongue, right? The holy tongue is what it was written in, the Hebrew, the Paleo Hebrew. And of course, when we go into reading about Jesus Christ and the apostles, that's when we get into what we call the Greek Septuagint, because we was under the Greeks during that time, the Romans that time. So that was the only language that we was able to write in during that time, right? So God told us if we were to keep his commandments, that he was going to take us on slave ships, and we was going to be sold unto our enemies, right? For bondmen and bondwomen, no man shall buy you. That word buy, because we were bought, weren't we? We put on auction blocks, tough, strong, ox, Negro, $500, $100, $200, right? This sister, she's a good cleaner, right? Leaves everything spick and span, $50, $60. We got sold. So that word buy in the Hebrew is quanah, meaning to redeem. Nobody's came and redeemed us. We love to say we're African. We love to say, oh, we've been here, we're our own, race group, but nobody has came back and redeemed us. If we was Africans, Africa is a big old continent, got more than 53 countries in it. Got some military, right? They have weaponry, they got ammo, they got fighter jets, they have a government, right? It's nice in Africa. You go in Africa, it's nicer than here, right? But they haven't came and redeemed us. Like we always like to say, all your skin folk ain't your kinfolk, right? East Indian, he blacker as hell, right? But is that your kinfolk? No, right? So all your skin folks not always your kinfolk, right? And in order to get out of the situation that we're in now, it's simple and easy. Get Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. This is the solution to get out of this situation that we're in today, right? Where we got to wake up, work a 9 to 5, right? What we got to do with people that I'm talking about weaker than us, dumber than us, right? This is how we get out of this situation. Go ahead.
It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter.
Right.
Fear God.
Do what?
Fear God.
So we must fear God. Go ahead.
And keep his commandments.
And do what?
And keep his commandments.
You got to keep the commandments. Go ahead.
For this is the whole duty of man.
That's your duty. That's the debt that you owe to God, right? Get Hosea 3, because we don't give God food no more. We don't give him drinks no more. And we damn sure don't give him money, right, to receive salvation. We are supposed to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments and have the faith to receive salvation, right? Give me that, Hosea 3 and 4, go ahead.
Book of Hosea, chapter 3 and verse 4. For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king.
Right, we abide many days without a king. Who's our king now? Damn Joe Biden. Just as Antiochus was during the time of the Greeks, and just like Herod was during the time of the Romans, during the time of Jesus Christ. We had other people above us. That was also a curse, that we was going to be the tail and these other people were going to be the head, right? So now we're in the days where we're without a king. Go ahead.
And without a prince, and without a sacrifice,
And without a what?
without a sacrifice, and without an image.
Without an image. We don't have no image. We have no icon to follow, right? We have no top leader, no top king where we say, I want to follow him. Follow after his footsteps, and he leads in righteousness and nothing but it, where he's found blameless and without spot, right? And that king, that prince, that man, that image that we're supposed to follow after, get Romans 8, is who the word calls Jesus Christ, which is not that man right there. That was an actual man. That man right there, who they depict as Jesus Christ, was a real man by the name of Cesare Borgia, right? Alexander the Pope, The 6th, that's his son. That was a man that killed his sister's husband, laid with his sister, had incest with his sister, then had his lover paint a picture of him, right? And this picture was pushed out through the world as saying, this is the man Jesus Christ, right? The missionaries that came and forced religion on our people, mainly the so-called Native Indians and Hispanics, they came with that image. And they said, if you don't bow down to this image, you will die. And some of our people, some of our ancestors, they was willing to die than to follow after that image, because they had what they called the over here in Central America, they had what they call the Aztec commandments. And in the 10 commandments, we're not supposed to commit idolatry, right? Same thing that was in the Aztec commandments. So those people with the Aztec descent, Mayan, Inca, right, Taino descent, they didn't bow down to that because they had commandments that they followed, right? The people over here, the so-called Hispanic Native Indian, they knew about Jesus Christ. You ever heard of the man Quetzalcoatl? You ever heard of Quetzalcoatl? Quetzalcoatl was a deity that the Aztecs and the Mayans followed. And it was a dark brown man with woolly hair, white woolly hair on his head and a beard, right? It's the same depiction as Jesus Christ in Revelation 1. You ever heard that Jesus Christ was a so-called black man? Right, you believe it? You ever read it though? Give Revelation 1, but finish that in Hosea 3. Right, we have no king, we have no prince, we have no image, no sacrifice. Go ahead.
Without an image and without an ephod,
Right.
and without teraphim, afterwards shall the children of Israel return.
Right, after all this time that we haven't had a king, a prince, an image, nothing to follow, no balance. It says afterward, it says what?
Israel, shall the children of Israel return,
Right.
and seek the Lord their God.
Right, after all that, we're going to return and seek the Most High God.
You